right, so let me set the scene for you guys here. It was November in the Northeast, and it still had not snowed. I was riding around in a t-shirt. We were seeing 50-degree days. It was beautiful all November. And I keep telling myself, I know I got stuff to do on this bike, but in December when it gets cold and it snows, I will start the actual teardown. But then December rolls around and things haven't changed. I took the time to put this air cleaner on, clean out the carbs and the jets, little maintenance things here and there, but I still had not pulled it apart and sent it for paint. So December and January roll around. I filmed that points video to get you guys set up to figure out how you can get points working on your bikes, but still, that took only about a day or two. And then I was back on two wheels, back cruising around. Still, the weather had not gotten cold enough and we hadn't gotten any real snow. So, come February, I realize I've missed half the building season by extending last season, and I still haven't torn down the bike and gotten to painting anything yet. So today, what we're gonna do is we are gonna get into all of the stuff that I should have been doing for the past couple of months. We're gonna tear the tins off the bike today. I'll walk you through how everything comes apart on this bike here, and then we're going to give you a little teaser of some projects that are coming up, like that fork lowering kit will be going in pretty soon, and also the exhaust fabrication I'm probably gonna get started on tomorrow. Was hoping to get that into this video, but it ended up taking a little longer than I thought to get everything edited and in place. So for the time being, we're gonna jump into the teardown on this bike. Now, before we get into actually pulling stuff off, I just wanna give you guys a quick tip about hand tools. Now, I did not blow the budget on this build, and I don't spend money for no reason, but a good set of hand tools is gonna save you from stripping out fasteners on the bike and hating your life when you're stuck trying to extract bolts that should have come out the first time if you bought a halfway decent set. Set of hand tools, pick them up over time. You don't have to buy it all at once, and do not go into debt with the Snap-on Man for this kind of stuff. But one set like this for a couple $100 can last you a lifetime and save you a ton of headaches. So here we just got a quick preview of that fork lowering kit that's coming up. Might get to that, or at least a part of that in this video, or that might be next week's video. But there's the Burley brand kit, 2 bottles of the heavy fork oil. Since we're going lower, I figured go heavier on the oil. And this is one of the genuine James gasket kits for the fork setup. You also need this deep socket 6mm Allen for this install. All right, so we're gonna jump in here and just start pulling the tins off. At this point, we just gotta pop 2 of these 5/16 bolts that I have holding the tank on. To be honest, these are way, way oversized to be holding a tank. You definitely don't need to use a bolt this big. I just had it as the same size as the Sissy bar. And then up here, we're gonna pop off the front one. You saw that long extension on the table when I was panning through the tools. That's just because on these Wassel tanks, that bolt is so close, you really can't get a socket down into there. So I'll pop this front bolt off of here, and then we'll be ready to pop the rest of the tank off. Over here, I just got to pop the gas line off too. I forgot to do that. Probably should pop this off before you take the bolts out so it's not rattling around like I'm doing here, but you do the best you can. And then over here, we're just popping off the bolt on the seat. It's only one bolt that holds the actual seat down, so I just got this sped up here because it's way too long of a bolt for what it is. Seat pops right off like this, and you can see up here in the front, there's a little hook that just nests into the frame. Here, I'll zoom in on it. You can see it right there. Now over here, we just got the battery. This is a stock oil tank from an Evo Softail. So great tank for this. If you're running kick only, you can see that battery's pretty small. Hardly takes up any room inside that oil tank, and right next to it is the fuse block. So popping off the negative, putting the screws back into the battery. This is a good habit to get into because it's so easy to lose those little threaded pieces. And we're just jumping over to the other side now, popping off the positive, and I'm gonna do the same thing. Pull that wire out and then put that screw right back in the battery. So over here we have the wiring fuse block. So our red cable right there is going into a fuse block, and that fuse block on the other end, I'll trace it out here, is running out to the key switch. And then from the key switch, it's coming back into this ganged hot section on the fuse block. And that's running a split wire. So as you turn the key, it gets power to the whole block. You've got 1, 2, and 3 sections. That's headlight, tail light, and ignition. And that's the whole wiring. This is a kick-only bike, so super, super simple. All right, now we're just going to dive into tearing things apart. So we've got the tank off, we got the seat off, and now we're going to go ahead and pop out these bolts that hold on the Sissy bar. So it's got one I'm working on right here, same thing on the other side, and then obviously the lower bolts down below it. Now for these, I'm using all 5/16 Allen bolts, which are 3/8 bolts. 5/16 is the Allen socket that goes into the head of the bolt. So I'm going to pop these off of both sides, and then we'll get this Sissy bar pulled off and out of the way, and you'll see the license plate bracket you're seeing in the shot right there is actually welded right to the Sissy bar. That's a 5/8 stainless Sissy bar, and 1/2 inch stainless stock is holding up that license plate. And the actual plate bracket portion is also stainless steel. I think it's 16 gauge stainless steel that the plate actually nests onto. So once I get all of these bolts pulled out, we'll go ahead and pop the Sissy bar off and then start taking off the fender. All right, so these 2 bolts right here are the ones that we're going to weld the nuts onto the back side of these, because these are a pain to get a wrench back behind the tire, up into the fender up there. Just a nightmare every time you got to take the fender on and off. So we'll be bringing this over to the bench later, and I'll show you how we do that. All right, so next thing we're doing here, we're just going to pop this fender all the way off. We're going to take those 2 bolts out. And once we've got those bolts out, we will go ahead and bring the fender over to the bench, where we can go ahead and weld the nuts onto the back of it to make the install a little bit easier. Now this here is actually not related to the Teardown, but this is a GoPro mount that I am super stoked about, because basically I've been looking to do a video on a foot clutch jockey shift setup, and this little mount right here is going to let me get the perfect angle of the shifter as I'm shifting. You can see the foot as it's actually working the foot clutch, so stay tuned, more of that to come once it warms up. All right, so here we've got the fender on the bench. You can see the bolts are in it with the nuts on the backside holding it on. There are some issues with the way this goes together, I'll tell you right now, but for the meantime, let me just show you quickly. In case you missed it in the other video, this is an AHP Alpha TIG 201XD. This is an AC/DC TIG welder with the hose that it came with. It's like their knockoff of CK Superflex torch. Got a flex head and a Jazzy 10 cup on this thing. You can see I'm bending this here to show you how the head flexes. Really great machine, handy little torch, but we will get back into this fender for now. So, like I said, these are nylock nuts. You do not want to weld this with nylock nuts. You want to use regular nuts. I didn't have any, and I had to get this video done. And you're going to see in a second here why you don't want to use nylocks. I knew this would happen, but basically you see all that smoke coming out. That is the plastic melting from the nylock. So do not use nylocks for this. If you have to shoot a video, hopefully you won't have to struggle through it like I'm doing right here. Oh, it's terrible to look at, but the video must go on. So you're going to weld the nuts onto the backside, both ends. Just put a quick tack on each one. You don't want to run around the entire thing. You're never going to put that much force on it. A tack on each side is more than enough to hold it on there. Over here, I'm going to show you a quick little side-by-side comparison. The bottom one, this is what you should do. Grind the metal and prep it. The top is what I did on that first take. Rushing to get a video out does not help. So I took the time on the second one to make it cleaner, make it better. Still smoked because of the nylock melting, but that's what it'll look like on the backside. And then you'll be able to come to this side when you're putting the fender on the bike and just pop 2 bolts down and through, and you're good to go. Alright guys, that's going to do it for this week's video. Super appreciate you taking the time to check it out. The bike is finally torn down for paint, off to No Luck Paintworks. The tins are going, and at this point we're going to get started on the exhaust and the fork lowering kit. So next week's video and the following week's video will be those 2 parts of the build. We'll get into taking these pipes off, how you build a set of stainless pie cut exhausts, as well as how to drop the forks on this guy down 2 inches. That one should be pretty straightforward, but we'll see how it goes. If you haven't, go ahead and subscribe to the channel, leave a like, leave a comment, tell me what you want to see. I've got stuff to do on this bike that I'm excited about, but if there's more stuff that you're looking to learn, welding related stuff, fabrication related stuff, let me know and I could work some of those videos into the routine. As always, hit that share button. Thanks for coming by this week, and I look forward to seeing you next week.